what was the job description. So and you'll notice that I'll put that there. I put that there. So what's the job description that you're applying for? Because remember, you always want to tailor a resume to a job description. So you should have received my comments there with your rough draft grade. Um, if you want on a meeting with me, just let me know if you want to discuss that. If you think my comments are sufficient for you to revise it, then that is okay too. You should have also received from me this morning is my comments for your abstract for your proposal. I noticed a lot of you, I'm not sure, not a lot of you, but a few of you wrote the abstract as if it was a proposal that was already completed. It was as if it was in the past tense, and you would have seen my notes there. Keep in mind that this should be in the future tense, right? It's a proposal that you are going to do. In my notes, you should also see the rubric attached to it that is looking for the things that I'm looking for. So I encourage you to look at that and make your revisions. If you want to meet with me, all you just got to do is reach out and we can meet to discuss your abstract. But if you feel confident you can make the improvements based off my comments alone, then you are welcome to do so. I also sent another email to you guys. So y'all been getting a few emails from me. About signing up for a time to meet with me about your research plan, right? So I encourage you to take advantage of those time slots and sign up for a time so that we can discuss your research plan. You'll see that I also revised the syllabus on Blackboard with the new due dates. Here we go. So you'll see that your abstract final draft and your resume or CV final draft is due on Monday based off the comments that I provided you. Those are very short documents, so it shouldn't take you too long to make those revisions. And then the research plan final draft is moved to Friday, May 1st, right, to give you time to incorporate the comments during our meeting either Friday or Monday. Okay, so you'll see those updates there on the syllabus. All right. So any questions about those things before we move on with today's lecture? No questions. All right. So there's no questions. Last time we were in class, we were talking about how to request a letter of recommendation, and we went through that process and we explained how you would do that. And then I told you we would do a writing sample. So this is what we're going to discuss today. So I'm going to share this with you all. So here's the writing sample. This is already on Blackboard for you too, so that you have this for a record. So go ahead and read through this. Take a few minutes to read through it, and then we're going to discuss this paragraph by paragraph to see what we think about it. All right, if you need more time, can you just type in more time? Okay, so I think we're ready to discuss then. All right, so let's hear. So it says to Jane Doe at exampleuniversity.edu from John Smith at exampleuniversity.edu. Subject recommendation for John Smith. All right. So far, did we follow what we said as far as the subject line? Is this work? You can put in the chat if you'd like. Does it? Is this? Remember, in the subject line, we want to make it very clear what's the intention, right? Yeah. So this does pretty well. All right. So then here is the first paragraph, and after I read it, anybody who would like to raise their hand and give us their comments, you can unmute. So it says, Dear Dr. Doe, I was hoping you'd be willing to write me a letter of recommendation. My name is John Smith, and I am a junior majoring in biology. I took your microbiology 102 class in fall of 2011 and finished with an A in the class. I'll be applying for a position on Dr. Allen's cytology research team, and the application is due by December 3rd. All right, anybody want to give their comments on that first paragraph? Go ahead, Amanda.
You said something about giving like leeway for the writer to actually back out and not actually write about it.
Unmute.
What?
Maybe you're having problems with your mic. Okay, now I'm going to give it to Alan. Go ahead, Alan. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry, guys. Hold on. Wait, stop. Ah. Okay, sorry. Let me go back to Amanda. Can you say something again, Amanda?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Sorry, that was my fault. Okay, go ahead. What were your comments about it?
Didn't you say something last class about giving the writer like an out so they don't have to write the letter of recommendation? In the first paragraph, it doesn't seem like that's there.
You are correct in the fact that we have to give them an out, but not in the first paragraph. The out can typically be given in the last paragraph. But you are correct. There should be one, but not in the first one. Alan, did you want to make some comments?
So it went right to the point. It right away in the first sentence, it went straight to the point. Didn't keep guessing or what is this for?
Very good. And that's key there, right? Because a lot of times when we get letters of recommendation, it's a lot of like I think I've mentioned this before. I'll get some that says like, "Oh, it's Dr. Ladd, you're such a great professor. You really helped me with all this." I'm all like, "Oh, this is such a nice email." Then the last thing is, "Can I have a letter of recommendation?" I was like, "Oh, really?" Right. So, but yeah, straight to the point. I'm asking for a letter of rec. Okay. Andrew, did you have a comment?
It was basically what Alan said, that he began his first sentence with what he wanted, and then he stated the facts like his name, his year in school, his major, and then he continues on with like what courses he took, etc. etc.
Good. Okay. So you like the layout. What about you, Christian? You have comments?
Andrew basically covered what I was going to say, that he reminded him what semester he took it in, what his grade was, and then what he's applying for, and when the due date is.
Yeah, very key thing here by both Andrew and Christian here. One thing that I really like about this is that they say, I took your class in this semester. Because a lot of times I'll say, oh, I took your class, and I'll be like, oh man, which semester was this? And I'm usually pretty good. Like I can tell, I remember where people sit in a room, but it's hard for me to remember like what semester it was, right? So yeah, so the fact that all the information is there, their grade is there, when the application is due, all the information's up front. It works very well. Okay. All right. Here's the second paragraph. While I was in your class, I became fascinated with the fundamental processes of life that happen on a cellular level. I'm very interested in working in Dr. Allen because I feel like this team's research in amino acid therapies could make great advances in the field. I know that you have been a part of several successful related studies, and I would very much like to be a part of a team that is working on something so important. In your class, I discovered my love for microbiology, and that has led me to apply for a position on Dr. Allen's team. So what do y'all think? Anybody? Alan, go for it.
It basically outlines why this person's asking this professor for the letter, but I think it could use some improvement in like stating the relationship with that professor as why he's asking him a little bit more.
Okay, very good. Christian, do you have a comment?
Yes, it seems that the person who's writing this did a little bit of research into the person that they're writing the letter to, saying that she notes that he's been a part of successful related studies into something that she wants to do eventually as well.
Hmm. Yeah, so it definitely shows some research on their end about the professor they're writing to. Absolutely, Andrew.
I think well, I don't know in what paragraph you should mention it, but should he also mention like the relationship that he had with the professor he's writing this email to?
Right. So yeah, both you and Alan are correct, right? I think there's room for improvement here. It's a good paragraph, but there's definitely room for improvement in the fact that they didn't really mention why this professor. Why are they choosing this professor to write them? I know it kind of does it indirectly. It says that I discovered my love for microbiology in your class. I know that you have done research in this area, these type of things, but it's still not very clear. Why are you asking me, right? So, and in a lot of cases, it's like the reason I'm asking you is because of blank, right? Just make it very clear rather than having the reader trying to guess. Wait, why are you asking me? Why am I the person that you think would be the best person to write the letter, right? So yeah, definitely a good paragraph, but definitely room for improvement here. One aspect that they also did in this paragraph was explain why they're interested in pursuing that position. So that helps, right? It helps when write the letter. If you tell us why is it that you want that job at Exxon, or why do you want that research position in Dr. McCarty's lab, right? If you tell us this, it helps us with the letters too. So they did a good job of explaining that. All right, so next paragraph here. Dr. Allen has said that the position will require long hours and rigorous research. I was hoping that you could include in your recommendation the dedication that I demonstrated on the group project that I was assigned while in your class. As you might remember, my group's project was particularly difficult. We faced several setbacks, but in the end, we earned an A because of our dedication and hard work. All right, what do y'all think? Amanda, go for it.
It's really broad and doesn't give a lot of detail on what the project was actually about.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it seems a little vague. I mean, it has a good premise. It has good premise, but it would be better if it was a little bit more specific. As you might remember, our project on blank, right? Go ahead, Medulla.
I don't know. To me, it sounds a little bit too demanding in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, because do you know what sentence kind of gave you that tone?
Like, I was hoping you could include in
Yeah.
your recommendation.
Yeah, it's almost as if he had already agreed, right? Yeah, and that was the tone rather than saying something like, if you choose to write me a letter of recommendation, I was hoping that you would include, right? That might be a little bit softer. Christine, do you have a comment?
Oh, my comment was that I kind of like that they mentioned it, but because I like that they mentioned it, even though I want them to reword it, because it kind of sets them apart from other students that's been in their class, so that it'll be like better to write them a letter.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. They definitely check that box that they should mention this, right? You should mention what traits or characteristics you'd want the letter to encompass. Absolutely. But you're also right in the fact that, yeah, this could use some rewording and some improvement, right, based off the comments from the other students also. So very good, guys. You guys are getting very good at, kind of dissecting these letters. I hope it shows when you write your own. All right. So if you are willing to write me a recommendation, please let me know and I will stop by your office with required paperwork. So now we come back to them giving us a choice, right? Like saying, if you're willing, it doesn't sound as demanding, right? But we'd have to get to that sentence. And then it says, thank you in advance for your time and assistance. I enjoyed your class and it helped immensely when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do after college. You helped me see how much good biology can do in the world, and I will always be grateful for that. All right, what do y'all think about that last paragraph? Okay, well, yeah, I think that last paragraph is pretty decent, because remember, you want to thank them, right? And I think it does. I think it thanks them. I think it accomplishes the box, checks the box, right? So I think it's good. I think that last paragraph is good. Okay. All right. So with that said, um, so this is just an example, right? So remember, you have to pick somebody that you're going to ask for a letter of recommendation. We're making this real. We really want to kind of tie this all together. If you really want a maximum experience here, tie in your resume, your request for letters of recommendation, your personal statement or cover letter, and your interview. Tie it all together towards one objective if you want a real experience here to prepare you for your end goal. All right. So any questions about requesting letters of rec before we move on to today's topic? Any questions? No questions. All right. So today we're still on this professional development aspect, and we're getting ready for the interview now. Okay, so now I'm going to teach you about the interview. And today we're going to talk about the very first part of an interview, which is professional attire, right? How you should be dressing for these things. Now, in a normal class setting, and this is one thing that I wish, well, we can't do anything about it. But in a normal class setting, what I would have done is when we have the interview, you guys would have come dressed professionally for that interview, because part of your grade would have been how you dressed and how to follow what we discussed, what we're going to discuss today, right? Unfortunately now, because we're going to have to do our interviews over the virtually here, the dress aspect is going to be less important. I don't expect you to like back off from the camera and pose so I can see the way you're dressed. So I'm not going to really grade you too much on it. But with that said, when you get to the real interview process, you want to make sure that you consider some of the points that we're going to discuss today when it comes to the appropriate attire. Okay, because there's a lot of different types of attire. There is business casual, and business professional, right? So these attires all mean different things. And a lot of cases when you interview, they will tell you what type of attire you should be ready to have, right? If not, then you're going to have to gauge what type of attire you should be wearing. For example, when I was interviewing for graduate school at UT Southwestern Medical Center, on their invitation for their interview, they said casual. And I looked at this, I was like, casual? They want me to come casual? I mean, not even business casual. They just want me casual, which is like jeans and a t-shirt, right? I was like, no, this must be a trick, right? This must be a trick. They want to see if I'm really going to come dressed professionally. So I went business professional. I went with a long sleeve shirt, a tie, slacks, so jacket, all of it. And I wasn't alone though, because the other people that were interviewed were dressed the same way. But there were other people that were just casual, and I'm just like, what's going on? But when I started to interview with the different professors, because when you go to graduate school, you don't interview with one person. I interviewed with 5 different people a day. And they were all dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. All of them. The professors were in jeans and a t-shirt. I understand why. They're still in the lab, right? And why do you want to get nice clothes messed up, right? So my point is if they give you an option, go ahead and stick with the option. But if you want to go a little bit more professional, it's not too harmful, right? To go a little more professional there. Okay. So here we go. So when we're talking about the interview process, whether it's you're applying for a job or graduate school, keep in mind that this is not the first interview. You're like, well, it's face to face. No, your first interview was on paper, right? Your first interview was application. This was your resume. This was your cover letter. This was your personal statement. That's your first interview. And if you don't get past that, then they're not going to call you for a face-to-face interview, right? So you want to make sure that that stuff is polished, because that's what's going to be the deciding factor on whether you get to come to that next round of face-to-face interviews, okay? Now, I will tell you this, though, that a lot of cases when it comes to medical schools and dental schools and pharmacy schools, they are moving to this aspect that those people that are interviewing you had not seen your resume or your personal statement. So somebody would have decided that you would make it to the interview process, but that doesn't mean that the person interviewing you has seen it before. So a lot of times they haven't seen that stuff. They probably haven't even seen your test scores. And the reason why they're doing these type of blind interviews here is not to give them a bias and for them to get an idea of who you really are. If that's the case, then that could be advantageous and disadvantageous at the same time. What do I mean? Well, let's say that your GPA isn't very competitive, but it must have been your personal statement that really got you through. Well, then at that point, if they don't know your GPA or your MCAT score, but you got to that interview based off, other aspects here, then that's the part where you really need to let your personality show, right? But at the other same time, though, too, let's say that you did have a very strong resume and MCAT score and GPA and stuff, then this is where you want to subtly put into the conversation how well you did, right? If they are not aware of those scores. This is also the main thing here is for the interviewers going to try to do, and like I said, I've been on many interview panels. I've interviewed the provost when we were looking for the provost position, which is the second to the president. I was on the search committee for the dean of our college, which is now Dean Silva. So the whole idea here of the interview is for the interviewee to get an idea of the person who's applying their personality, right? And their character. So you really want to try to let your guard down professionally, let your guard down and let them get an insight into your personality, right? You really want them to do that. But the very first thing that's going to happen before you even speak a word is that they're going to look at you and they're going to look at how you're dressed. And you want to make sure that you're dressed professionally, right? So that's going to be the basis of our conversation today as far as what to wear to the different types of interview processes or in a professional setting. So in general, you want to go pretty neutral, right? Conservative business attire. So neutral colors like light blues, white, black, right? Neutral colors, colors that are not too bold, right? So for example, I had a friend, he was defending his thesis for his PhD, and I went to his thesis defense. And guys, and I'm sure the ladies here too, how many of y'all are familiar with those very colorful shirts from Express, right? Long sleeve shirts from Express. They have a whole wall on them, and they're beautiful colors, different colors, but very bright colors. Well, he was wearing one that was lime green, like it was bright neon lime green long sleeve shirt. Through his entire presentation, I kept getting distracted. I was like, man, where did he get that shirt? That's so bright. Why would he? And I was focusing less on what he was saying and more on what he was dressed, right? So the idea here is when we say go neutral, the idea here is to not cause a distraction to the person that you are presenting to or interviewing you, because you want them to focus on what you're saying, right? So that's the key thing there. Again, if you are asked to dress business casual, then use your good judgment. We'll talk about the difference between business casual and business professional. The other thing is, and ladies are very good at this. The ladies are good at this. The guys can use some advice here. You want to plug in that iron, and you want to make sure that your clothes do not have wrinkles in them, right? Iron out that shirt. Use some starch if you have to, right? But go for that very clean, professional look. You don't want to show up with a bunch of wrinkles everywhere, because that either shows that you either didn't care or you were rushed and didn't have time. Yeah. And Mary makes a suggestion. Yeah, take it to the dry cleaners. Yep, absolutely. And if you can't take it to the dry cleaners, you can do it yourself too, right? But that professional wrinkle-free type of things here. And you want to make sure that when when you're dressing, again, the idea here is to present yourself in a very neat and clean fashion, so that they can judge you in a professional manner. All right. Now, here are some general guidelines, and I realize that my slides are very wordy. Keep in mind that the whole point of the wordiness is for your notes, so that you can go back and use these when you're thinking about what to wear. So when it comes to these dress, what you'd wear, your perfume or cologne, your jewelry, even your hair, the way you do your hair, you should not distract the person from the conversation or from your professional image, right? So you don't want to wear anything that's too distracting, because they're not going to be focused on what you're saying. For example, I was interviewing somebody once. It was a young lady, and she was interviewing for a position with me. And one thing that she walked in and said, "Hi, how are you?" She's very nice, very pleasant youngin', but she had this red feather in her hair, just a red feather. And this whole time I would ask her questions, she would answer them, and I'm I'm all thinking, why does she have a red feather? I wonder what kind of feather is. Is that a real feather, or is that a feather from what happened? Now I'm distracted, and I'm not listening to her answers to my questions, right? So again, do not do anything that's too distracting here. Make sure your hair is clean, neat, and professionally styled. Now, again, ladies are very good at this, but ladies on one end I've seen where they're very good at making sure that their hair is very well kept. But at the same time, because in some cases they can do a lot more with their hair than guys can, sometimes they do too much, right? So keep in mind that it's not a prom type of situation. It's just a professional type of setting, so less is more, right? So clean and cut. Now, when it comes to guys, um, um, what happens a lot of times is guys tend to not do it enough, right? In other words, they go for the messy hair look, right? No, get clean, right? Comb it, right? We're not going to go for, who is that actor with the messy hair? Robert Pattinson, right? No, no, no. You want to go with that clean, neat, professional styled look. Um, now, when it comes to facial hair, right? Um, Gentlemen, I realize that you might take a lot of pride in that beard, right, and that mustache. It's best to get rid of the facial hair. Okay, it's just best to get rid of the facial hair, and it'll grow back, right? If you're really, really against it, then just do your best to make sure that it looks very clean, right? That it's very nicely even on all sides and shaved and edged very well. Okay. Now, when it comes to piercings, though, ladies, and here's the thing, guys. I'm not trying to be like, oh, well, you're so conservative. I'm just trying to tell you what the professional environment says. You may not agree with it, but this is part of being a professional. And ladies, it is completely acceptable for you to wear earrings. It is true. Guys, I am sorry. It is just not acceptable in a professional setting for us to wear earrings, right? So we don't wear earrings. But regardless of whether you're male, female, or you don't identify, regardless of the fact, wearing body piercings themselves are not professional, right? So what I mean by that is on your nose, on your tongue, on your lip, on your eyebrow, and then even though I'm saying you can have them on your ears, I've had people who've had like 5 on their ears with chains that connect each of them. That's too much, right? For the ladies. So again, none of these piercings would work. What's starting to be really popular now are not those piercings, but you guys are going to have to help me out. Guys put them in their ears to make the lobes bigger. What are they called? Anybody? Gauges. Thank you, gauges. Right? guys, don't do it. I mean, that's just not a professional look at all. And my understanding is that's not reversible, right? So yeah, and if you do have them, let's say that you already have them, well, hopefully they're small, and then you can kind of like cover them up if you have to, right? But yeah, so those are not professional. Visible tattoos. It's okay to have tattoos, but let's hopefully you have them in places where you can cover them up, right? I remember, um, and I'll tell you a quick story here. There was a former student that I had, and here's the thing, guys. There's a thing called, I forgot the word. Not implicit bias, right? There's a thing called implicit bias, which means that everybody's going to have some type of general impression of a person just by looking at them, and it may not always be a positive impression, right? And it comes a lot. It's based off a lot of how they grew up, the culture, where they come from, and so forth. Well, there was a student who this was like my very first year teaching. I was still very green, still very learning, passionate and motivated, but still very green. And I noticed that this student always sat in the back, and guys, I take every effort to memorize everybody's names. So I had memorized everybody's names. He always sat in the back, and he wasn't performing very well. And he always came to class in a muscle shirt, and he had tattoos over his entire body and arms, right? And and he always came in a muscle shirt. He reminded me of a cholo. If those of you know that know what a cholo is, it's a kind of like a mean gangster is a cholo, and but he was Asian, so he was like a Asian Mexican cholo, um, and so he'd come to class every day, but he wasn't performing very well in my class, and he would never say anything. He would never say anything, and you know me, even if you don't um, perform well, and I'm gonna give you your quiz back, and you got a 2 out of 10. I'm still gonna smile and give you the quiz, right? Like, here you go. That's just my personality. Um, and I remember doing this, and he was looking at me like he wanted to kill me, and I'm like, oh man, right? Well, I made a general impression because of these tattoos and the way he was dressed. In my head, I made a general impression and this was a wrong impression. I completely admit it, that this student obviously doesn't care about the course. He was not performing well in any of the assignments, and obviously was just, he didn't care. And that was my general impression, a wrong one. And then the student ended up taking me for Organic 2 in the summer. And first, I see him again. I was like, oh, okay, he's back because he didn't do well the first time. And first quiz, 10 out of 10. Second quiz, 10 out of 10. Third quiz, 10 out of 10. Fourth quiz, 9 out of 10. And then when he had the 9 out of 10, he comes up to me after class. He says, Dr. Aguilar, my name is, and I said, I know your name, so-and-so. I stopped him in mid-sentence. And he looked at me, surprised, and he says, well, I just wanted to know, did I get this wrong because of this? And I said, absolutely, very good. Yeah, that's why you got it wrong. It looks like you corrected it. Very good job. I said, I've noticed that you're doing a lot better this semester. I want you to keep up the good work. And he said, thank you very much. When I got back to my office, I had just gone back to my office. I had a missed call, a voicemail. I checked my voicemail. It's this student. It's so-and-so. I just spoke with you. I was wondering if I can meet with you one-on-one, so that I think I'm not understanding this other aspect very well. Can I meet with you? So I call him back and I said, hey, how about this time? He said, sure, okay, I'll meet you there, right? So he met me in my office, and we go over his questions and so forth. And I said, can I ask you something? He says, yes. I said, well, what happened last semester? Why did you struggle? He said, well, I didn't have a really strong foundation in Organic 1, so I was playing catch up, so I used the break to kind of catch up, and that's why I'm doing better now. And I said, can I ask you another question? He's like, what? I'm like, what's up with all the tattoos? Because there are tattoos everywhere. He's like, oh, I'm an artist. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, I designed these tattoos, and I get a tattoo every year for something that was important in my life. And as I started looking closer to the tattoos, because he was in a muscle shirt again, I see one of a turtle, right? And they're very intricately all designed, incorporated into each other. One's a turtle, one's a little bit of a flower, and I'm just like, huh. And I said, well, are you designing these? He's like, yeah. And then he started showing me some of his sketches. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then he said, hey, did you know I'm a monk? I'm like, what do you mean you're a monk? He's like, no, seriously, I'm a monk. I have, I was in a monastery. I trained with this stuff. I was like, I don't. He's like, he showed me pictures of him and his whole attire, his shaved head before the tattoos, and I'm like, wow. What's the point of my story? Because of the tattoos, right? Because of the tattoos, I had made an impression, right, that was completely false. Now I had the opportunity to correct myself and get to know this person. But if you have only one opportunity in an interview, and that's the only one you get, then imagine what that person's going to think, right? Just on another note here, this person and I are now very good friends. He when he graduated from UTSA, which has now been about 5 years ago, he asked me if I would write him a letter to pharmacy school, and I agreed. And he got into 12 different pharmacy schools across the nation. So he had to get a pick from what he wanted to do. He recently, a year ago, just earned his PhD. He is on my wall. Yes, he is. And in his letter of recommendation, I wrote that this person taught me something. And this is true. He did. But I want to warn you too that, again, I had the opportunity to learn from that mistake. If you only have a few hours with a person to interview and impress themselves, these type of issues are gonna, they might not have that opportunity, right? So my point being is, if you have these things, and it's unfortunate that we think this way, but you're gonna want to cover these up so that they don't distract the person who's interviewing you. All right, so that was my story. So let me go ahead and continue with the slide here. Make sure that your clothes fit well, right? The clothes fit well. Here's the thing that a lot of times guys and ladies how do I say this? We both do it wrong but differently. What do I mean? In a lot of cases, the guys, their clothes are too loose. They don't fit well, right? They're too big for them. So if you've never had a suit before, if you've never worn a suit, I'll tell you another story. When I was got my very first suit for a professional setting in college, I just went to this. At that point, it was Macy's. I went to Macy's. I found a suit, tried it on. I was like, okay, this works. I bought it. I went to my function, and it was an older gentleman who pulled me aside, and he said, "Can I speak with you?" And I was a senator for my college, right? And it was my first suit. My dad doesn't even own a suit, okay? My background, you got to realize, neither one of my parents graduated high school. I didn't know how to tie a tie. My dad's never worn a tie. My dad, he worked as a merchant marine for several years. Then he worked as a machine operator making bread for several years for HEB. So he never even owned a suit. It nonetheless know how to tie a tie. So I didn't really learn these things. I had to learn on my own. So this older gentleman pulls me aside. He says, "Can I speak with you, young man?" I said, "Sure." And he says, "Hi, I'm so and so." I was like, "Hi, I'm Hector Aguilar." He's "Your suit doesn't fit." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Your suit's too big. You're wearing the wrong size." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just telling you, when it comes to professional attire, you're more of a size 36L, and I was wearing a 34 regular, right?" So what's my point? Make sure your clothes fit. Ladies, sometimes you tend to wear smaller clothes rather than the clothes that fit, right? Your clothes should fit naturally. And for my gentlemen and for my ladies friends, if you're going to go with a suit, because pantsuits are very popular with the ladies these days, um, there are people that work at those stores that will measure you, will actually do the measurements to make sure that you're wearing the right type of fitting, right? So make sure you get those measurements. And here's the thing, a lot of cases, if you're going to buy a suit there, that measurement is free. I did not know that. And then the other thing is that they will tailor it for free. If it doesn't fit you just right, they will tailor it for free as long as you buy the suit. I did not know that when I was doing this. So make sure you think about those type of things, okay? Keep in mind that less is more, though, right? You don't want to go in with a whole bunch of jewelry, with all this decor, a feather in your hair, right? Go with less is more in these type of situations. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to talk about attire based on gender, whether you are going for the men's attire or female attire, and what is technically acceptable as a professional type of setting here. So when it comes to a men's interview attire, you want to make sure that your suit, your jacket is going to match your slacks, right? You don't want to wear black slacks with a blue suit or a blue jacket, right? You typically they want to match. The other thing is you don't want to wear something that's pinstripe pants with a solid jacket. Again, if it's pinstripe, it should match pinstripe and so forth, right? So make sure that they match here. Go with, again, neutral colors as for your undershirt. It should be a long sleeve undershirt, but to go with neutral colors like a white or a light blue that brings some type of contrast to the jacket, right? And then if you go with a white or a light blue, it also gives you more opportunity to play with the tie and those colors so that they can either stand out a little bit as far as contrast, but still kind of blend in at the same time. Now, a lot of times what happens is that people want to, go ahead, Samuel. Oh, dyed hair. I would go with, if you have hair colored, if it's a natural color, like let's say you have black hair and you dyed your hair dark brown. Well, it's still a natural color. But if you have black hair and you dyed your hair pink, yeah, probably not professional, right? But that's okay if you dye your hair with natural colors. Now, the other thing is, a lot of times what happens is people will roll up their sleeves. And you can do that once you're in a more comfortable setting, like you got the job. But if you're interviewing for the job, this is saying that it's a lot less formal, right? So don't roll up your sleeves. Make sure that you maintain the attire throughout the whole interview. When it comes to the tie, and this is the part where I would show you, I would bring one with me, but you need to be careful with your tie. You want to make sure that your tie stands out from your shirt. In some cases, what I've seen is people wear a black shirt and a black tie. Well, that is just going to blend right in, right? So you want to have some contrast here that's subtle and some patterns that might stand out. When I was interviewing the deans for our college, I could tell. I mean, obviously they would be very polished interviewers, but we interviewed 5 different deans, and 4 out of the 5 came with an orange and blue tie. They didn't say anything, but they came with an orange and blue tie. What was the point? UTSA colors, right? So, I mean, it makes a statement without actually making a statement. But the other thing that you need to keep in mind about the tie is the length of the tie. The length of the tie, the tip of the tie should be at your belt line. If it's below your belt line, that is too long. You need to readjust that tie. If the tie is above your belt line, like closer to your belly button, that's too short. You need to readjust that tie. Okay, so that's really important too. When it comes to your socks, you think, really? We're going to talk about socks? Yes. Go with socks that are going to blend into your shoes. If you're wearing black shoes, then maybe a black sock or a gray sock. If you're wearing blue slacks, like a dark blue slacks, then maybe dark blue socks, right? To kind of blend them in together. When I was interviewing for the dean, one person who came in, and when he sat down, you know, when you sit down, your slacks kind of lift up, and then if you cross your legs, your socks really show. They were bright pink socks. And I ain't gonna lie, I like the guy, but I was just like, wow, the bright pink socks. Somebody missed a lesson, right? So yeah, again, it shouldn't distract, because at that point, I wasn't listening to him answering a question anymore. At that point, I was thinking, wow, he has pink socks, right? So again, focus. You want them to be focused more on your words. When it comes to shoes, guys, ladies are very good at this. Guys, we struggle a little bit. You want to make sure that those shoes are nicely polished, right? Now, I'm not talking about like prom shoe polished, but that they're clean, that they have a shimmer to them, right? You want to make sure that they have the types that have laces, not the ones that you just kind of slip on. Although there are some newer versions of these shoes that slip on that look very professional. I think that's kind of a little outdated. I think fashion is kind of catching up, but you definitely don't want to wear anything that look like, almost like slippers. Um, and again, the color should match, could kind of blend into your slacks, right? Now, when it comes to the belt, you also want to make sure that the belt that you're wearing, the color belt that you're wearing, matches the color of your shoes, right? And this is just fashion sense here. You don't want to wear a brown belt with black shoes. If you're wearing brown shoes, wear a brown belt. If you're wearing black shoes, wear a black belt, right? So these things should match. Some things that you might not have thought about, but yeah, these things are important. Minimize jewelry. Again, it's just not really professionally acceptable for men to wear jewelry. So besides like a wedding ring or something like this, yeah, minimize. You can wear a watch and stuff like this, but necklaces and so forth, not so much. When it comes to, this is not an issue here in Texas. We don't typically get too cold, but let's say that you end up going to interview in New York, right? Where during a cold season. Well, then you want to maybe wear an overcoat that is a little longer past your knees. It looks a little bit more professional. When it comes to the cologne, how many of you, ladies, how many of you have known that guy that, they pass by you and you're just like, oof, that's a lot, right? That's a lot. I've had that. I've had people come into my office and, hey guys, if you're putting stuff in the chat, just raise your hand because I can't see the slide and the chat at the same time. So if you have a question or a comment, just raise your hand. So I've had people come into my office, both ladies and gents, that have come into my office and they ask me a question. And as soon as they walk in, I'm like, ooh, they're wearing a lot of cologne or they're wearing a lot of perfume or that body, not body wash, what is it? Body spray. And then the funny thing is when they leave, I can still smell them. That's how much they're wearing. If you're not sure how to wear cologne, what you should realize is the way you wear cologne or ladies for fragrances too, is that you spray it in the air and you walk through it, right? You walk through it so that it can get onto your clothes. If you want to, you can spray it at a distance on your wrist, but at a distance, not directly on your wrist, at a distance to your wrist, and then kind of rub it on your wrist and then along your neck, right? That way that it's not as empowering, but that's mainly for like if people get close to you, they can smell you. Now I'll be perfectly honest with you, but wearing a cologne or perfume is not a requirement. As long as you don't smell bad, there's really no reason to wear them in the first place, right? So it's not a requirement. This says thing about a briefcase. Briefcases are very old-fashioned. People don't really wear briefcases anymore. If anything, they wear things like a messenger bag, right? Something to strap over their shoulder, right? Those are much more common these days and much more fashion-forward these days. All right, let's talk about before we do that, before we talk about the ladies here, let's see if I can do this. I have some pictures of people dressed that we might be able to critique. Let's see if I can do this. All right, I'm back. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. Sorry about that. I was trying to share a website with you guys of some people dressed so that we can critique them. And it kicked me out of the whole system. So I'm not going to try that again. But what I'll do is I will send y'all the link. I'll upload the link to Blackboard, and that way y'all can go take a look at it. Y'all can see, some people that are dressed, and then see what is positive pros and cons about those people. It's unfortunate. I can try posting on the chat. Let me go. Let me see. That's a good point, Andrew. Let me see. Okay, can y'all go click that? Cool. All right, so look at that. Let's take a look at this first person here. And normally I would kind of cover this so y'all can't see the comments right off the bat. But if you look at this first person here, right, what are some things that we see here with that first person, the first guy? Very baggy. Yeah, Mary's right. The clothes just don't fit very well, right? They're not fitted very well. Anything else?
They're wrinkled pants.
Very good. Yeah, very good. Yeah, those you can tell that those pants have been wrinkled. They're not even, ironed out, right? Anything else?
He looks kind of like the kid who has the weed stuff down his pants.
That's because they're so baggy, right? Because they're so baggy and they're very long. Look at his shoes, right? They're so long, right? So not very good here. Not very good. All right, so let's go to the next one over here. Right, what do y'all think about this one here? Oh, go ahead and mute, guys, because it's having trouble switching over. Go ahead and mute. Mary says, is he wearing a tie? Dallas says no tie, right? Yeah, you can't really tell, one, because the colors are everything's blending into each other, right? The shirt doesn't really stand out from the jacket, but no, he's not wearing a tie, right? And here's the thing, if you're gonna go this is a little bit more business casual. If you're not wearing a tie, that's a little more business casual, right? Because business professional would require a tie, okay? Let's look at this third one over here. What do y'all think of this third one? Let's see. Go ahead, Samuel.
I was gonna say because it's a black shirt on black pants, so maybe like a white shirt and a coat.
Right. There's not much contrast here, right? Nothing to really stand out. And the tie blends into the shirt also, right? The question is no jacket. Well, here's the thing. If you can go without a jacket, right? And it would be a still business professional, right? And it really depends on the setting. If you're going for a real professional job, I would wear the jacket, yes. But if you're going for like an entry level job, then this might be okay, right? This might be okay for an entry level job. But yes, change the color of the shirt, let it be contrast a little bit here, and so forth. All right, next one.
All the same color.
Yeah, this just looks black on black on black, right? It's just, yeah, it's just not good.
He's also wearing a V-neck. I think it's a V-neck, and
Yeah, you're right. It looks like a V-neck undershirt. It doesn't even look like a long sleeve shirt, more than just like a t-shirt, right? This might be like something, well, I don't know if you would go on a date like that, but I mean, I wouldn't, but anyway. All right, what about this next one here? Go ahead, Rylan.
Oh, I just had a quick question. I was wondering, what are your thoughts on like thinner ties or wider ties? The
So
tie?
here's the thing. So the wider ties are older fashion. The thinner ties are more modern fashion. I typically like the thinner ties these days, and it's just because it's more fashionable. But I wouldn't say that it's any less professional. Ellen, did you have a comment?
Yeah, it was about the other attire. It was different colors between the slacks and the jacket.
Very good, right? And here's the thing, guys, and this is just me personally. I don't like khaki. I don't like that. I don't know. It just bothers me. Have the jacket pants. This doesn't really do so well. Now we look at the last one. What do y'all think about the last one? What's that? Samuel, did you say something? No? Okay. So this last one, what do y'all think? Hello? Did I lose you guys? Are y'all still there? Okay. Y'all are just being quiet. So what do y'all think about the last one?
I think it's pretty good, that one. I don't see a change that could be made.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty slick, right? It's a little slick. I think if he would to, rather than posing on the side and did a frontal pose, we get a better look at the outfit. But I do think it's pretty good. Okay. All right. So now let's go ahead and talk about the ladies' attire here. Okay. So when it comes to the, yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
What if we can't cut our hair? Do we just like style it because no like barbershops are open?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm personally I'm buzzing my hair later today. Thinking of going with like a 2. Um, but with anyway, yeah, I think that these days, in this current situation, people understand, right? But yeah, I would try to just make it style very clean if you can. Yeah. But yeah, in this situation, people understand that, we're in that situation. All right, so let's go with the ladies' attire here, right? What's starting to be very popular with the ladies here is the pantsuit, right? So I would go with again a navy, a black or gray a pantsuit, or maybe even a pinstripe or a solid color. So these work pretty well. Same as the gentleman here, you want to make sure that your undershirt contrasts the jacket, right? Now, ladies can get away with a little bit more, although guys can too. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I look amazing in pink. Okay, so pink, I look really good in pink. So I don't have a problem wearing a little light pink undershirt. Ladies can get away with this a little bit better, right, with some of these colors, but I still think white, light blues, and these type of things work a little bit better. All right. Um, when it comes to the oops, when it comes to the, why do I keep doing that? The skirts, right? If you decide to wear a skirt rather than a pantsuit, make sure that you keep to that traditional knee length, right? You don't want it to be too high above, right? You just want it to either keep it at the knee or longer would be more acceptable. All right. Just like we mentioned, you want to make sure that your blouse or your undershirt fits nicely, right? That it's not too tight and it's not too big. And you also want to make sure that um, that it matches your waistline, right? You don't want it to come to the point where it comes untucked, right? So you want that to be that. Now, here's the other thing about wearing hose. A lot of times, if you do decide to wear a skirt, some ladies will decide to wear hoses. That is perfectly acceptable. But I would make sure is that you pick one that matches your skin color, right? You don't want to wear a white hosing here. It'll be a little bit more distracting. Pick one that matches your skin color. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do is that you always carry an extra pair with you, so that if for some reasons they rip, that you can always end up switching them out if you need to. Same concepts come when it comes to about the perfume, right? ladies tend to wear the perfume more so than guys wear cologne. But I will say this, that ladies wear the perfume smarter than guys do with cologne. They know how much to put on, right? So again, there's nothing wrong with it, but keep in mind that it's also not necessary, and you want to make sure that you keep that in control so it doesn't become overwhelming. All right, and when it comes to makeup, so yes, ladies wear makeup, right? And it's okay for you to wear makeup, but keep in mind, and again, I'm not trying to, please understand that I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just trying to tell you what the professional world is looking for. You don't want to wear so much makeup that it looks like you're going to prom or you're going to take pictures like for a photo shoot. Your makeup, the whole point of your makeup is that it should look natural, right? It should look like if you're not wearing makeup. I mean, if you like, I remember in high school, and maybe you were one of these students. No, you guys are probably too young. When I was in school, in high school, I remember my friends, my Latina friends, right? They're wearing lip liner, but no lipstick, right? so so you want to make sure that that your makeup does look professional, right? Your foundation should match your skin color too, right? Mary, you had a question.
So does it look bad if you don't wear makeup?
No, I don't think so. Um, I don't think it looks bad that you don't wear makeup, but I will say that this depends on who you ask, right? And this is where I mean where it's important to know your company and who you're applying to, right? Because let's say that you're applying to J.C. Penney as a you're applying to like to work in their sales, right? Or anywhere sales. Let's say you're going to work for what's it called, pharmaceutical sales. Then you probably should wear makeup, right? Because they're very big on their presentation, right? And appearance, right? But let's say that you're applying to be a chemist in a laboratory, right? Then maybe less important. Does that make sense, Mary?
Yeah, it does. It clears it up.
Okay, cool. Um, so the other thing is, again, nobody really carries briefcases anymore. But ladies, if you decide to go with a messenger bag, then there's no need for the purse, right? So pick one or the other. Um, Now, oh, okay. So let's talk about the shoes. So even though this is here, I will tell you this, that I've had some of my lady colleagues kind of jump on me saying that's not true about wearing flat shoes, because like I think that wearing a heel displays confidence. Okay, fair enough. And I've seen people interview in heels, and it is perfectly fine. So let me make this point instead of saying you should wear flat shoes. Maybe I should put here, and it does say here, low pumps, right? In other words, do not wear very high heels. 1 to 2 inches is sufficient. You don't need those 3-inch heels during a job interview, because you need to think about it. You're going to be required to be walking a lot, right? You're going to be walking a lot, and your feet are going to get tired, and you can't take your shoes off, right? So again, wear something that's comfortable, right? And if you do want to wear a heel, then I would go with a 1 to 2 inch heel, nothing too much more than that. Okay. You also don't want to make that your shoes are the focal point, right? You want them to be focused on what you're saying, and less so on what you're wearing. Okay, so when it comes to accessories, so ladies, you have a lot more options when it comes to wearing like a necklace. That's acceptable. Scarves are acceptable. Rings and earrings and so forth. But I would not go overkill. I wouldn't have a ring on every single finger, right? And a whole bunch of jewelry. Simple is better, right? Simple is better. All right. So before we move on to looking at the pictures of the ladies' attire, do I have any questions about the women's attire? No. All right. So then let's do the same thing. I'm going to post a link here. Okay, let's go look at that one. All right, so what do y'all think of the first one here? Ladies, what do y'all think of the first one?
Is the top too big?
Um,
Is it the jacket?
Yeah.
it's the jacket, right? Yeah, it's the jacket. It almost looks like a leather jacket, doesn't it? Right? So the jacket's not very professional here. And the top, there's a lot going on there, right? So it is not too. It's almost like it's trying to go a little too trendy, right? A little too fashion forward, right? And it does look like a leather jacket there. Um, but again, you need to match your slacks, right? So that's an issue. Medulla. All right, so let's go with number 2. What do y'all look at number 2? What do y'all think?
The
Anybody?
button off-putting.
Yeah, that shirt's too tight, right? It's way too tight. If you start seeing those lines that's showing that the fabric is kind of like wrinkling because it's trying to stretch, that means that your undershirt's too tight. This goes for guys and for ladies, right? When I start seeing those lines that stretch across the fabric like wrinkles, that means that it's holding on because it's too tight. Okay. Andrew, oh, you're good. Okay, sorry. Okay, so let's go to the the third one here. What about this one?
Skirt is too short.
Yeah, it's definitely too short, right? Definitely too short. This looks like a flight attendant, but with a very short skirt, right? What do y'all think of those shoes? Those look like slip-on shoes, right? They look like slip-on shoes. So, yeah, so again, still not very good. What about the next one with that plaid?
This would be good if it was for work, not for an interview.
Yeah, yeah. And Alan says very distracting. Yeah, I would be distracted. I'll be like, that's interesting, right? It's too busy, right? It's too busy, and we want to keep it simple. But I will say it looks pretty. It looks pretty chic. I mean, it fits her well, um, and it's unique, but it's just really busy. All right, and then I think we have. What about the next one here? The necklace, yeah. That necklace definitely stands out. And the reason why the necklace stands out is because everything she's wearing is black, right? So there's no contrast. So then the only thing that you're going to be drawn into is that necklace, right? So too much there, too much. All right. Oh, we don't have much time. So let's skip to the last one here, right? Last one here. What do y'all think?
Is she wearing shorts?
The very last one? No. Maybe it's because of the jacket. Because she's wearing an overcoat jacket, like one that you'd wear for winter. So maybe that's why you're thinking that. Yeah. So all in all, this one's not too bad. I'd like to see what it looks like without the overcoat jacket, though, because it looks like we might want to go with something. If there wasn't an overcoat jacket, something that's a little shorter. But you really can't tell the contrast because she has the jacket zip, so maybe a bad example there. But nonetheless, um, nonetheless, would you consider her slacks to be baggy? Let me see here again. Yeah, I think so. I think they're a little too big for her. Yeah, a little too big for her. She looks warm though. All right. So with that said, let's continue on here. So this is when it comes to the attire, right? This is when it comes to attire. Hopefully people have a better impression. I really wish we were still in class so that everybody would have to come dressed appropriately, because that would have been part of the grade. We would grade each other on, you all would grade each other on whether the attire was appropriate or not, but we won't be able to do that this time. The other thing that you want to do is make sure you plan what to bring for this interview, right? So, for the rest of this talk, it's less about the attire. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there, because the rest of this PowerPoint is about the interview process itself, which is going to be our discussion on Tuesday, how to conduct yourself in an interview, right? So we're going to talk about that on Tuesday. Keep in mind that part of your grade here is to actually conduct an interview with me. We're going to have to do this virtually, of course, so we'll both turn on our cameras, and I'll ask you questions and so forth. So you need to start thinking about what you're interviewing for, because the mock interview assignment, you have to upload, if it's a job, you have to upload the job description you're interviewing for, because I'm going to do my research to ask you questions about this job. If it's about medical school or dental school, whatever, you have to tell me the school that you're interviewing at. If you decide, oh, I'm going to interview at Dell, okay, then give me all that information, right, with the link to their medical program and everything, so that I can go do my research. And I'm going to do an interview for you as if we're doing it in Dell, at Dell Medical School, or whatever it may be, right? So you need to start thinking about that. And the way we'll do it is I'll send y'all an iCalendly invite, so you can schedule a time. The time is going to be during class though, right? Because the part of your grade here is to evaluate each other, and all of us give each other feedback. So we're going to be in class giving having this interview, okay? All right, any questions? No questions? I hope you're excited. My camera doesn't work. Mary, we'll figure something out, but shoot me an email so I can figure something out. Yes, Samuel.
I just wanted to clarify. So the mock interviews are going to be during class, but are we all sitting in each other's interview or no?
Yes. Yes, because what everybody's going to do is after the interview, we're all going to give feedback. It says, oh, I think you did this great, but maybe you could do this, or maybe you answered this question really well, but maybe you could have changed it, say it this way, that type of thing. Does that answer your question, Samuel?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Dr. Aguilar,
Yes.
I sent you an email about my resume and the abstract, because I turned in the final resume and final abstract because I thought it was due the 22nd, but we got an extension, so you only get 2 submissions online. So I was wondering, like, how do I submit it? Do I email you?
Yeah, I'll take a look at your email and then I'll respond.
Same for me here too, sir.
Okay, no, I can fix that. Don't worry about it. Sent me an email. I'll respond.
Okay.
Christine, why am I more nervous in front of y'all than during my actual interview? Here's the thing, guys. Sure, you might be nervous. That's okay. The idea here is to actually just give you practice, right? The great thing about doing it this way, which I didn't get to do in person, is we'll get to record it, right? And that way you can go back and look at yourself and learn how to improve, so that when you get to the real interview, you're good to go. Samuel says no. I thought that would be a good thing. You want to go and look at yourself so that you can do better. Oh, come on, guys. You'll be fine. It's just us. Come on, don't be freaked out. It's just your future. All right, any other questions? Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Anything else? Any other questions? Go ahead, Rylan.
Yeah, I know we went over requesting how to write a request for a letter of recommendation. I was wondering, um, maybe how would that work if we were asking maybe like a physician if we wanted to shadow them?
Oh, yeah, so that's different, right? That's probably a lot closer to a cover letter than it is to a letter of rec. Okay, so the same thing is you want to explain who you are and what you're asking for, right? Just like in a cover letter, and then explain what your end goals are and what you want to gain from the opportunity. Okay, and if you want, we can try to talk about that one-on-one if you shoot me an email, because it would be a little bit different than anything that I've taught. Thank you,
Okay,
Alan.
yeah,
I
that'd be good.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Israel. Yes, I appreciate it, guys. All right, if there's no more questions, then I'm going to let you guys go. And don't forget to sign up for your research plans and meeting with me, and then start thinking about that interview. Okay? All right. Talk to you guys later.